Oh, you should be streaming live.
All right. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of Grace Under Pressure, where we interview members of the Order of the Rose from across the known world and get their perspective on their experiences. We are very fortunate today to be joined by Duchess Dagmar, who's my co-host, and Duchess Magdalena, who will be interviewed today. Um, let's see here. Let's go ahead and start. And Duchess Dagmar, take it away.
Yeah, well, I would like to introduce my co-host, Sir Joel DeGrace, or DeGrasse, if you want to be kind of pretentious. And he started in the SCA 16 years ago in the now Kingdom of North Shield and is now in Callantyre by way of the Outlands and Artemisia and many other stops along the way. He was knighted in 2018 in Artemisia, and his consort is his wife, the Honorable Lady Aniela. This week's fun fact about Joel, fun for him, but maybe not for the rest of us, is that he wore his baseball cap backwards at SCA events in the SCA, and it was terrible, and he should never live that down, and it's not nearly as fun as it should be. Joel, don't ever do that again. You've agreed to that, right? That's part of that chain around your neck.
Yeah, I have long since been corrected to that behavior. It was a very confusing time in my life. I'm sorry, but and as always, I am joined by the wonderful Duchess Dagmar of Antir, who has also lived and thrived in the West Kingdom. Her first reign was as a princess of Sinagua, and she has since gone on to have two reigns in Antir with her husband, Duke Thorin Yalson. She is recognized as a laurel in sass and badassery, and this week's fun fact about her is that she's the godmother to a child who is a foot and a half taller than her and has the red hair that her son was meant to have.
It's true. It's true. We joke that I'm the actually the sperm donor for that child, which, if you know me, is not out of the realm of possibility. So, there you go. We'd like to extend a very special thank you to Ashaxi and Rifkin for hosting Grace Under Pressure on the Sisters Interview Network. And now we will present our second guest. Attend the words of Sir Joel.
Y'all, we are really lucky this week. We have one of my personal heroes of the SCA, Duchess Magdalena of Callantyre. She is a member of the Order of the Laurel, Order of the Pelican. She's had multiple reigns in Callantyre. She is consort to one of the most genuinely caring people I've ever known. She's just amazing. We are so lucky that she agreed to come along with our experiment as we get going. Duchess Magdalena, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Hey, there's supposed to be applause.
So that was really bad timing. I dropped off just as you interrupted me.
That's okay.
But I'm back.
I was talking about how beautiful and amazing you are.
Good, I missed all that because I probably would have made a face.
Well, and we are having a little bit of lag with Magdalena. So if we experience some lag or delay, we'll just keep rolling along, Magdalena. Don't worry about it. And
okay,
we'll just talk until you're back, okay?
Okay.
So we'd love to hear a little bit about your SCA origins and what brought you to the SCA originally.
My story is not particularly uncommon. I was in college and looking for something fun to do. And I found out about the SCA through a friend of mine, and I started going. I was 19 years old, and I've been in ever since. I've lived in 3 or 4 different groups, and just sort of met my husband in the SCA, had my children in the SCA. I've been doing this more than half my life.
Well, I hope you didn't literally have to have your children in the SCA and that there was some kind of medical professional involved at some point.
I only one of them was born in at an event. The rest were almost to the hospital, not quite. No, they were all born in the usual way.
In the usual way. Okay, that's wonderful. Well, and we talk
the usual way.
Yeah, we since you are a Laurel, I would love to hear a little bit too about your art geek, because that excites me as a fellow Laurel. I'd love to hear sort of what you've explored and what your cultural interests are. When we get back to her, there she's freezing. And that's okay. You know,
Am I back?
you are.
No. Here we
Yeah.
go. Okay. You wanted to know about what my laurel is for, what my art is.
Sure.
So my laurel is, I got it in 1996. I think that's what I told you. I was focused on costuming and cooking. I was already making hats and accessories and things back then. I honestly don't think I would vote for me now. I mean, the me then. Like, I really feel like, well, the SCA has grown. I have grown.
So Magdalena, we're losing you again. Can you try stopping? Can you try stopping your video?
No, I've picked up, actually felt it. Okay.
We just lost you for most of that. And maybe if you turn off your video, it might actually help. And
so I turn off my video and then you just hear my voice?
Yep. And you can pop back on here and there, but it might help with the lag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I can turn mine off too. That seems like it may have slowed it down.
Okay. Okay. So you asked basically what my art was, and at the time it was costuming and cooking, and with a focus on accessories, a lot of hats and stuff. But it really did take me until just about 5 or 6 years ago before I started learning to make felt from scratch, from sheep hair. And so again, it's one of those things that I feel like I'm doing so much better now than I did in 1995. Mm-hmm. So that's my art.
Well, I love what you're wearing on your head right now, which of course now nobody can see that, but do make a point of looking at the photograph that we posted as the advertisement for this interview, and you can see a pretty awesome hat that I believe was part of your wares, and that is wonderful. So yeah, I think we covered that. So go ahead, Joel.
So you've been fortunate enough to have a few different reigns now, and what would be something that current you, since you actually just mentioned that, would go back and tell previous you before your first reign? What kind of experience, what kind of sage advice would you give to yourself before your first reign?
Hear me now?
Now we can. Yes.
I didn't hear anything you said.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try that again. Since you've been fortunate enough to have a few reigns now, you can go back now and tell previous you any piece of sage advice before your first reign. What would now you tell previous you?
Wow. Relax. Calm down. It's going to be okay. Rely on your friends. They will be there for you. And then what I did do was always say thank you.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to try to show a photo now that is from your step down from your first reign. And hopefully this is showing. No, it's lagging. I'm sorry, guys, that we're really having some technical problems this time around, and I'm not sure how to reconcile that. We will just have to keep going through here.
Just have to plug forward, yeah.
I know. So how in every kingdom we have learned that what you call the people who work for you during a reign are called different things. And in Ontir, we use the word retinue. In the West Kingdom, it was your court. And some places use retainers. Can you describe a little bit what a typical reign, how it's structured in Calontir? And I'd love to hear what your past heads of retinue and retinue, how they would describe working for you as queen.
We do call it retinue. Individual people who follow you around tend to be called retainers. But when we reigned in 2009 and 2010, the structure was you had a chamberlain who was in charge of the whole, kit and caboodle, and then you had the herald and the we have our own herald. We do not rely on the kingdom herald, so we have our own herald, and then other people that were a scribe. But now, more recently, Calontir tends to have a chamberlain and a head of household, who the chamberlain is still kind of in charge of the whole organization of everything, but the head of household deals with the individual retainers and scheduling them, keeping in touch with them. And that's something that sort of was phased in by a couple of very smart people who thought doing both for a chamberlain might be too much. And by our second reign, we had kind of started to adopt that concept. So that's really more how it's done now. But every crown has their own scribe, and they have their own herald as well.
And do you have unique scrolls for each reign?
Yes, we do unique scrolls for peers and the GOAs, and then with each reign, there's the AOA level scrolls are all done as preprints that are hand painted by various artists. So
okay.
The text is different for every reign, and it is geared to the crown, their culture, or whatever they want to do. But for GOA level of awards and for peerage awards, it is usually geared toward the recipient.
Yeah.
And their individual works, top to bottom.
Right, and I think so. On tier, of course, we have. I think it's very similar. We have reign specific AOAs and grant level awards are generally in the style of the reign, and then peerage scrolls and all of the others are done in the style of the recipient.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in every kingdom. So it's always really fascinating. And it does make me wonder in individual kingdoms, how that affects the scribal culture as well.
I imagine it does. I've seen kingdoms where the text just doesn't change. Like if for every award, there's a standard text, but every single scroll is an individual work of art, and so, I don't know, I kind of like the change in the text because it's different. Every reign, there's something different to listen to when people are called into court.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's really interesting. And again, when we talk about the people that serve on retinue or serve on as retainers, depending on the kingdom, you will have someone who serves as your own personal scribe. On tier, we have a culture of a lot of Viking era reigns, and so the herald or the scribes are always really excited when there's a culture that actually has manuscripts and written art as part of its as part of its medieval, like the height of its medieval culture, as a way of getting to do something other than faux Nordic scrolls again and again. So
yeah,
we can hardly give somebody a rock, as they're walking.
Well, I think for peerages in Calontir, we do tend to give people rocks. That's happened. So when we have Nordic personas that get the peerages, they will often carve a rock, carve a piece of wood, a shield. That's to me that's a lot of fun, and that's not technically scribal work, but it's beautiful artistry.
That's right. I have a shawl for my county scroll.
That is very cool.
That's
yeah,
so cool.
Gorgeous, hand woven with the wording on the hem in tablet weaving. It's pretty extraordinary, and yes, it's just as cool as having a piece of paper. Actually, I think it's more cool because it's more appropriate to the Viking era side of my persona. So,
and you get to take it around and show it off.
That's right.
Like a
That's
scroll
right.
is on your wall.
That's right. So yeah, that's really interesting. And the other piece of this, of course, is that when we have retinue, we're able to bring people into kingdom service in a way that it might be their first time having any real contact with a crown. And I think about all of the people that come along with us when we reign and are able to develop their service history as well.
Yes. Well, I when I was younger, in the SCA, and younger actually, because I almost grew up in it, I didn't know that I could just go up and ask, can I help out? Can I be I think we called them ladies in waiting back in the day. We got a little bit more open-minded about who might want to serve, but I didn't know I could. And it wasn't until much, much later that I found out that they're always looking for people to serve. And then if I had gone up and said, oh, can I help? They probably would have given me a job. So yeah, we try to encourage people. If it's interesting to you, please volunteer. Even if you don't know the crown from Adam, volunteer anyway. They're probably looking for people.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask while we were talking about kingdom differences is that Palantir is famous for its kingdom pride. That is something that because I moved into kingdom during the plague era, but we were friends before moving into kingdom through
Yes,
my lady.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think anyone that's ever been to any of the major events of the known world, whether that's Gulf Wars, Estrella, Battlemore, Penzig, any of the major wars, you see a sea of purple. During your reigns, what was something that you found it was easy to kind of help keep pushing that kingdom tradition of purple pride, I guess. I hope that didn't come wrong.
We refer to it as bleeding purple. So you were so close. And I'm not ashamed of this pride. I mean, you give me a chance and I'll wax philosophical about Palantir. But it wasn't hard. There wasn't really much for me to do to encourage this pride in kingdom because the culture is so strong. One of the things that's part of Palantir culture is that the kingdom comes first and your household affiliations come second. Especially when we leave the kingdom, especially when we go to foreign wars and foreign events even. I think a lot of that, if you look at our history, we were a part of the mid-realm for quite a while, and we became just a regional group with warlords, and then we became a principality, and there was a little bit. There we go. Look at me. There was a little bit of a struggle. I thought I dropped off again for a second. There was a little bit of a struggle finding our own identity as a principality and a kingdom. And we were small and we were close then. And when we finally became a kingdom, this is how we're going to do it. We are going to everyone can wear a falcon. Everyone can wear a cross of Palantir. Everyone is encouraged to wear purple. We went to Penzig as this big unit and fought as a unit. And I think a lot of it just came from, our song back then was Palantir Stands Alone to the tune of Johnny Comes Marching Home. And we try not to sing it too much because we have since realized that we have lots and lots of friends throughout the known world, and we absolutely 100% do not stand alone. But we stand shoulder to shoulder with a lot of other fabulous people around the known world. But we were very proud to stand on our own as a kingdom when we finally did. And this was when I was very new in the SCA. We were a principality when I joined, and we became a kingdom shortly thereafter. So I was raised in this, we are a kingdom, we live independently from the mid-realm, and now we are our own people. So yeah, the falcon tabards that you'll see in this picture, these are my three sons, and my husband is the tall one to the left, the second from the left. We all wear the purple and the gold when we fight together. And that was something that we took great pride in. It wasn't very common in the mid 1980s for everyone to be allowed to wear their kingdom colors and to fight that way. It was sort of thought was the King's Royal Guard that wore the kingdom colors. And I guess our early kings, wasn't my choice, but I like it. Our early kings and queens decided that everyone fights with the king when we fight at Penzic. This is Penzic and other places.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where that all comes from. And it was no effort on my part whatsoever to keep that feeling going. They do that on their own. People in Callantyre really, really love Callantyre and have a lot of kingdom pride. So all I had to do was go along with that, to continue that. That was easy. That was nothing.
So I do have to mention that I work at a major research university in Seattle, whose colors are purple and gold, and we also bleed purple, but it's very different. And usually there's some kind of a brown ball with points on the end involved. Yeah. So those colors are very familiar to me, and I will say that as a redhead, they are very hard to wear. And
I apologize.
But black and gold, which are the main kingdom colors of Ontario, are also very hard to wear for a redhead. And I wish people would think of this when they were designing their kingdom colors, is that there's bound to be somebody who's like, I'm going to look like death in this. You really should think of that color palette. So
I don't think there's a color combination that looks good on everyone.
No, probably not. No, of course not.
and for the record, I graduated from a university whose colors were black and gold. So,
but isn't it genuinely exciting when you find things in your kingdom color? Like, you know, when I find yellow and white checky on something, I'm like, I have to buy it all, because we have all in this kingdom, we have all had to make a white and gold checky by hand.
Yeah.
For something, and it's a rite of passage to make that checky.
I feel like purple and gold is a color combination that has not really stepped into the modern world too hard.
Yeah.
Other than sports teams, there are definitely a number of sports teams that are purple and gold, so you kind of have to follow one of those, I guess.
We were joking around because purple's always been my color, and like my device is purple and silver counterchange there, so it's always been fated for me to end up in Callantyre.
Right. You belong here.
So there's another thing that we like to ask about, because I know in Ontario that this has really made a big difference, but I'd love to hear how technology changed your reigns over the year or benefited your reigns.
Okay. Our first reign was probably the first Facebook reign.
Oh, wow.
So it was 2009, and it was when Facebook started opening up to non-college students. And I joined, probably about 6 months at my sister's urging, because I was just like, I don't want to do this. It's for high school and college students. And she's like, no, the grown-ups are doing it now. And I did. And 6 months later, we were Hershey won Crown. And you want to watch your friend list grow. Yeah, you win Crown. Yeah. But it was different. We kind of had to kind of navigate that. What do you put on Facebook? What do you say on social media? It was very new to us old people. I mean, young people had social media for 4 years, which is forever when you're a young person. But it was different, because there was, I was using Facebook more social with my family and stuff like that. And I would say words on Facebook, and I would, I'm still not prone to ranting and complaining on Facebook, because people don't want to see that. But I had to really think about it. Like, you know, here I am every time I post, even though my modern name is on my Facebook page, every time I post, it's the princess or the queen posting, and people are going to see it that way. So yeah, that was a big change. And just also, you know, I'd been in the SCA since, you know, paper newsletters and everything through the mail. And you mentioned this last week, having the newsletter in your car, and, you know, oh my goodness, if you forgot it, if nobody put the Kingdom newsletter in the car, you know, you had to turn around and go home to get that, or you were not going to find your way to the event the next day. So yeah, I mean, we've come a long way. I don't even look at a paper newsletter. It's all online now, and all the event flyers are online. It's actually really great. I really like it. It's better.
And being able to do your memberships and confirm your memberships instantaneously. And
Kids
these
days will never know how hard we had it.
And on that note, hey, everyone, make sure to renew your membership.
That's right.
Yes, renew your membership.
We are a nonprofit after all. I'm going to show this adorable picture of you. I think this is your step down from your first rank.
First stepping down.
I love this. I love that it looks in the background like it's probably a arts or a merchant display, but
I think it's a merchant display. Yes.
Yes, but it's
sort of an all-in-one room event. Yeah.
That's great. And what year do you think this would have been?
This would have been 2010.
Okay, that's really cute. And your children, I was thinking about the use of social media, and of course, a lot of us are aware of having our children's images online.
Yeah.
You know, and what can they consent to, and what can they not consent to, and that sort of thing. And you know, when you become sort of a public figure through the SCA, a lot of things change, including your children's privacy can also be part of that.
That is correct. And it isn't just social media that it's just being the child of royalty at all. The two boys in the picture are my oldest and my middle son. My youngest, I don't remember why, but he was too shy to come up and escort us out. Or maybe he just was out of the frame. I don't really remember. He was very young. But they were old enough to be on their own at an event. We didn't have to have babysitters. I mean, the oldest was 14. And but that's just a lot of people looking at you and making sure that you're not somewhere you're not supposed to be, or fiddling with something. You know, I mean, kids are kids, and now they can't, well, you know, during that time period, they couldn't make one misstep without not just us hearing about it, but lots of people hearing about it. Luckily, they were raised in the SCA, and they kind of already knew what, you know, you don't go in parts of the event site that we're not allowed to be in. And, you know, if you mess with somebody's stuff, you will have to go and apologize to them very publicly, which is humiliating. So they already had those manners, but it was tough. And I think when we first won, they were so excited. And by the time we stepped down, they had a slightly different attitude about it. Not, oh, I hated that, but oh, that has drawbacks. You know, it was a mixed bag.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then we did it again a few years later. and one of them was super excited. The middle one, he's my Melkor, and he is just always really excited and there with us, you know. But the other two are a little more circumspect in general. I mean, they're both loving boys, but they were like, here we go. This is okay. We're ready this time. We included them more in the second reign because they were older and a little bit like they got to hold swords during courts and things like that, which was very exciting. So in some ways, the second reign was better for them. Also, they just weren't little kids anymore.
I love the idea that all SCA parents have to decide at what age is it appropriate to let your kids start holding swords. You know, right. It's not a conversation every family has to have, but I feel like it's an important one.
is a very important discussion, but it is not one that people have outside of the SCA. But like some people take their children hunting. When do you decide it's okay to hold the rifle? So I don't know. We all have these decisions to make.
So, since we just actually talked about responsibility when it comes to weapons, but
Yeah.
As a royal peer, what do you feel your greatest responsibility is to share and uphold to the known world?
I feel that as a royal peer, my job is to be welcoming. My job is to offer hospitality and to give people a place to be comfortable, to be safe, if that's an issue for them at that moment. What Hirsch and I do to manage this is we have an enormous shade fly that is made out of brightly striped awning fabric. So easy to identify, easy to describe for someone who wants to say, go over there. And it is way bigger than we need at any given moment. But the idea is we set it up, we have way more to drink in our cooler, both whatever kind of beverage you might like, although we almost never have cider, and that's kind of a failing of ours. But it's because it's something neither one of us drinks. But there's always more to drink than we need. There's always more to eat than we need. There's always more chairs than we have. We bring more chairs than bottoms, is what we say. We probably don't say bottoms, but I'm going to say it tonight. And we have shade, and we have we have ground cloths we put down, so it's even less buggy and maybe not sticky and wet. So that is how we manifest that physically. But I think there's also an emotional manifestation of that, a social manifestation of that, where everyone is welcome to talk to me. Maybe they don't think so because people just do have peer fear, but we try to overcome that. Hirsch is like one of the most gregarious, outgoing, approachable individuals anyone will ever meet, and people like him. He's kind of like, even when he doesn't ever do anything wrong, but if he does things that are slightly less right, it just sort of like people forgive him really fast. They're like, oh, he didn't mean it, right? Like he's one of those personalities, and I love that about him because I'm not that personality. I'm the one where people are like, what did she mean by that? I don't know. It's my face, it's my tone, it's my ovaries. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so I get to kind of soak up a little of that from him, thankfully. But I do believe that it's our job to make people feel comfortable. People feel welcome, people feel needed, people feel wanted. And we try. We really do. I really love people around me. I love new people. I love old friends. I like everybody. So it's fun.
So one of the first stories I ever heard about Calontir being so welcoming was, and I'm going to shorten it up and kind of paraphrase here, was a certain young lady approaching Hirsch and saying that she had heard that Calontir was a bunch of singing mother.
Yeah.
And Hirsch immediately took the lady over to I believe it was His Highness or His Majesty, and introduced her the exact same way, saying, we were told that we are a bunch of singing mother, and they all started singing a song for her.
Singing blank mother blankers, I believe is how it went. And we were not, this was at Gulf Wars, and we were not, so I remember this, I know who you're talking about too. She's a darling person. And yeah, he came in and said, I think Your Majesty, but it might have been Your Highness. This young lady was told that we're a bunch of singing blank mother blankers, but we weren't actively singing at the moment. We don't always, it's not a constant thing. We have to take a drink once in a while. And so, yes, Calontir began to sing.
I'm just imagining all of Calontir being like West Side Story, or I mean, maybe Cats. I don't know. it really depends on your mood, I suppose. And
You know,
that's working for me.
I feel like those Broadway shows do not sing in the key of Army.
Fair.
And Callantyr absolutely sings in the key of Army. But that sounds very deprecating, and it is a little bit, and we laugh at ourselves as much as anybody. But what it really means is bring your voice. We don't care what it sounds like. And join it. And honestly, sometimes the key of Army sounds really pretty, especially if it's a song we all really know. It doesn't matter. The fact that not everybody is quite there makes a weird harmony that actually is gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll be adding to the weird harmony. Don't worry. So.
Good. We want you to.
So you were recognized as a pelican after you had already received your strawberry leaves. That's correct?
Yes.
Do you feel that having already been a Duchess slowed down the path to being recognized as a pelican at all, since you had done service underneath the crown? Do you feel like that kind of slowed things down or changed how your path went?
Possibly. I don't want to put the Order of Pelican on blast. I've never really gone and asked them what they were thinking. But I became a Laurel, I said in I think 96. And then not long after that, I became the local Baroness. And, it wasn't a long time after that Hirsch won crown the first time. It was a few years, but it wasn't immediately. But I suspect that all those things might have kind of slowed it down a little bit. But at the same time, maybe I got it exactly when I deserved it. I used to joke a long time ago, because I'm not a big project person. I'm not the person that's going to run a war. I'm not the person that's going to, invent a concept that changes the SCA, creating a whole office like the Ministry of Youth and Children. I don't have big ideas like that. My big ideas are a little scary, and I tend to give them to other people, and they get in trouble for them. But
Shenanigan.
I'm a shenanstigator, and I'm proud of it. But I used to joke that maybe when I was very old, I would get a pelican as a lifetime achievement prize. Well, like the guy that never wins an Oscar, but when he's really old, they give him an honorary one. And obviously that isn't what happened. But I don't know if why I didn't get one until I'd been in the SCA for more than 30 years, or because I was just not doing the work, or if all the other things that I did in between kind of form these little, oh, well, now she's got,
We're losing your audio, unfortunately.
Wait, oh, now she's got something good. We can let it wait a little longer. I don't know.
We lost some of your audio there, but it sounded like you were saying that.
All right, I am back.
Yeah,
There we are.
Yeah, there you go. That you were okay with the timing.
Maybe.
So when did now you're frozen again. I can't complain. I was gobsmacked.
Well,
it certainly wasn't something that was.
We have lost your audio again. So while we're hopefully waiting for that to reconcile, I am going to go ahead and roll up some more of these adorable photos that she sent to us, but I'm going to skip the one with the spoon because I want to make sure we get an explanation of that. But let's see here. I'm going to share my screen again. And I thought this was really beautiful. It looks like they kind of went all out to make this photo possible. I love that sometimes we can find these great architectural places where we can get that essence of the medieval spirit, even here in the United States, where we don't have fun things like castles. This is really cool also. Looks like this is a group of royalty and duchesses at, I think she said this was Penzic, but hopefully when we have her back online, she can let us know. And she really likes this one. She said this was from her second reign. And
I'm back.
hi.
I'm back.
I'm just showing photos of you. So
I'm back.
Maybe.
Isn't that
yeah,
Maybe
unfortunately. Yeah, we've lost the audio again, unfortunately. Well, this one, it is a very nice photo. She said this was in their home branch, which is really sweet when you get to go back to where you started in the SCA or where you live as royalty. That can feel really good. And then we're back to this photo from Penzic. Hopefully we will get her back because we'd had some great questions, but we can also, Joel, if this continues to be a problem, we can just have her come back sometime. Maybe when there's less demand on network resources where she is.
Magdalena, are you there? Or
Well, we're going to just go ahead and take a little pause here. Perhaps we can, Joel, you really should be prepared with some terrible jokes for when these things happen.
oh man,
we'll have to work out a whole comedy act maybe.
Oh, that can just be the picture I was telling you earlier about with the backwards head and the and everything. I have no regrets. But I'm also not going to show that off too much today because I swear I don't.
We've all had our moments.
I could go to Facebook.
Oh, we heard you for a moment there. Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, well, Joel, do you have a name or two of a future interview that we've confirmed that you are okay with sharing at this point?
All right, I'm back.
Oh, wait, Magdalena, are you back?
I am, kind of. We'll see.
Okay.
Every time I think I'm back,
Right.
I disappear again.
Okay. Well, I was just showing some of the photos that you sent to us.
I saw those intermittently.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to see some of your fabulous clothes because, of course, that's one of the great things about reigning is that you frequently do end up with some fabulous clothes. What's the culture in Callantyre? Did you do your own sewing or do people sew for the royalty?
That's two different answers. The culture is that people sew for the royalty. I made all my own clothes, except for my coronation dress for my very first coronation, because I was told I wasn't allowed.
Oh.
By friends who just didn't want me to make my own coronation clothes.
Okay.
But then for our second reign, nobody told me about that again. They were like, yeah, you can make your own. So I made all my own clothes.
We have a culture in Ontario of having the royalty wear clothing that's been made for them. And it is, for some people, one of their favorite things about reigning is that they end up with some fabulous new clothes. So
Absolutely.
Of course, when you have kids to sew for too, that you can only stretch those resources so far before people might balk at sewing for your whole family, I'm sure.
Yeah, my kids just wear the same things a lot.
Yeah.
Right. It got laundered in between,
great.
With with how long you've been playing and with being experienced as reigning royalty, what is an award that you would create if you could, the one that doesn't exist currently, whether that's at a local society, kingdom level, whatever? What's an award that you would create that you haven't seen?
Like if I had a magic wand,
Yeah.
I'd create that omnibus peerage that covered equestrian and archery and everybody else. That's kind of easy for me.
That's fair enough.
It's controversial, which is why, but that's why I asked if I had a magic wand.
I like controversial. I'd love to hear more about that.
Just so, like now we have the Masters of Defense, and when that was first being brought forward, and I have nothing against the Masters of Defense, actually, I believe it is a wonderful thing, but when that was first being brought forward, there were two options. One is the Masters of Defense as it is, and the other was a peerage that would encompass all martial activities, even ones that we haven't thought of yet, like if we were to take up wrestling or something as a SCA sport or something. But so, you know, archery and equestrian activities, which have a martial aspect to them, but are not the same as stick fighting and steel fighting. And when it came down to it, for whatever reason, the decision was made for it to just be Masters of Defense. And I celebrated with them, absolutely. But I still feel like the archer community and the equestrian community kind of could use something like that. So that's just me.
Well,
Right.
yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Well, the omnibus peerage is something that there, for those that are aware of it, there's not a lot of neutral people on it. It's people they have a very clear opinion, whether in support or against it.
This is why I wanted a magic wand for that, because it would also just make it happen, and then I don't know, smooth over everything and make it okay. I don't know. We're talking magic, right?
Of course.
Yeah. And I know that that's not how the SCA works. You know, goodness knows I know. But yeah, if I could do whatever I wanted. Now I have made enemies and friends.
No, not at all. It's no, it's always good to hear about it, and it's good to hear the support going through where people are having paths to recognition opened up before them. Yeah. So it's definitely a good thing to bring up and make sure the conversation is out in the light. Yeah.
And honestly, right now with everybody at home and we're not able to meet in person, there's lots of conversations going on about what does an ideal version of the society look like for us? What does it look like if we, you know, have to continue not being able to meet in person for even longer? You know, what does it look like? What does service look like under this paradigm? What does arts look like? What does fighting look like? I mean, that's really the group that's probably the most deprived of what they love in the SCA, other than, of course, their wonderful consorts. But it's, I think, really a good time to be thinking about, well, what does it look like when we get together again? You know, what about those reigns where a crown, you know, has to go to 6 hours of meetings at an event because of all of these separate.
That is true.
And there's lots of other ways that something like you're describing could be beneficial. And there's probably just as many detractors as supporters of an idea like that. But I think it's an interesting time to be thinking about these things creatively.
And I think just because something might be hard doesn't mean it's not worth thinking about.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Speaking of hard things that I'm sure you've had to deal with, you've had multiple students graduate to their respective peerages. 3 of them, correct?
3, yes.
What would be the piece of advice that you would give in a vigil tent that you feel would fit both the students that you've had be promoted, and also, I say like rating royalty, you're going in, and you at an event and you see one. What is a good piece of just general advice that you would give at someone at their vigil?
Well, when I do go into a vigil, what I generally say to people is, and now I'll never have to say it again. I'll have to come something else because I'm saying it publicly. I'll say it again. That we often refer to the SEA as a game. And I have no problem with that word for the SEA. But what I do have a problem with is when people say just a game. And because it's often used to belittle somebody's thoughts or feelings or efforts or their passions. It's just a game. And I want to remind people that while our names are made up and our clothes can only be worn in very specific circumstances, the people are real. The money we spend is real. The time we put into it is real. Our emotions are real. Our relationships are real. And that should be respected. That to say that something is just a game is to put it in a smaller box than the SCA belongs in. And so when you get to thinking about something that's important to somebody else and you start to think, oh, why are they so upset? It's just a game. Okay. But they're not a game and their thoughts are not a game. And it's just, we need to remember that we are real people doing real things in the real world, as well as it being a game. So that's generally some version of what I say. It's a little shortened for this.
It's a really good point, though, because it also speaks to the fact that the privilege that we have as peers is something we should wear lightly, because we are people after all. So, and that's something, I think a lot of us are also thinking about in light of world events. How are we able to use the privilege that the game grants us, or the society grants us, to ensure that other people are being, at the very least, recognized, but also that they're being seen, and that if they're suffering or if they're being harmed by something within the society, that they are people first.
Right.
That's such a great point. I will tell you, though, that sometimes when people get too big for their britches, I do remind them that this is a fancy dress cocktail party in a cow pasture. And that is my go-to instead of saying it's a game.
And I don't think that those two concepts are at war with one another. I think that they are used in different situations.
That's right.
Yes, I am not a duchess when I go to the grocery store. And even though I am a duchess in the SCA, if I start treating people like they are less for any reason, I am wrong and should be taken aside and set straight, reminded. And it can be hard. It can be hard to remember, because people in the SCA treat me differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of cool, but at the same time, I have to remind myself and put that into perspective. I don't always succeed. I know that I get a little big for my britches and probably need to be reminded it's a fancy dress party in a cow pasture.
Cow pasture. The cow pasture part is what gets me. Hey, that reminds me too of when I was in my very first reign, which was actually as princess in the West Kingdom. I was also working as a substitute teacher at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I would go from being called Your Highness on the weekends to being treated absolutely horribly by high school students.
Sure.
Who were gunning for the substitute teacher. And I was, 5'2", standing up real tall, and looked about 12. So, there is a certain amount of humility that comes with it, just as soon as you step off that cow pasture.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of teenagers, I would love to hear a little bit more about raising children in the SCA, because we do have quite a few people that have reigned who also raise children at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that affect your reins? How did it affect them?
It was a scheduling. I've got one of them down here just looking at me right now. It was a scheduling nightmare the first rein because my oldest son was in marching band and we stepped up in September. So that was fun. And marching band is not an optional activity when you're in marching band.
Right.
You have to go. And so that was fun and interesting. And also, what you talked about, the cow pasture to the substitute class, I went from Friday night making popcorn for the concession stand and for the football game, like smelling like popcorn, if you don't know what that's like, and hot dogs and nachos and everything, to going, to the event the next morning as, as the queen. So that was kind of fun. That was a little bit of whiplash. But yeah, I think we were lucky when our children, when we reigned both times, they had been in the SCA their whole lives. All three of them went to their first event before they were a month old.
Wow.
Yes, and they don't remember not the SCA. And so I think they were pretty, and I was a peer, became a Laurel when my oldest son was a year old. So they don't even really remember their parents not being peers. Like Hirsch was knighted shortly thereafter. And so they always kind of moved in a, kind of a, I don't know, they don't have peer fear. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I just, other than scheduling around school stuff, it really was pretty easy because they were older and they could kind of handle themselves. But raising kids in the SEA is a very interesting experience. And I used to say when they were little, the great thing about having kids in the SEA is that there are so many people who want to help you. And the awful thing about having kids in the SEA is that there are so many people who want to help you. And so, because, sometimes what people want to help you with is not really what you want to do as a parent and stuff like that. But in general, it was such a welcoming society to have children in. We kind of paved the way in Callantyre. There weren't a lot of people that had little kids when we had ours, or a few. It is rolling with children right now. It's part of the culture to not drop out of the SCA when you're in your 7th month, which kind of tended to be what people did. They'd bring their baby to an event, everyone would carry the baby, and then you'd never see those people again, or they'd come back when their kids were teenagers. That's right. We were bound and determined not to do that, and we made it work. I spent a lot of times at events when they were little, before we even were Baron. Well, we were Baron and Baroness when they were little, but spent a lot of times just sitting watching children while Hirsch fought. And then as soon as the fighting was over, the baby was handed to him, and I just went and found people. I was lucky that people would gather around me a little bit. People like to hold the baby. People were my friends before. They stayed my friends after. Yeah. But and then they a lot of their closest friends are SEA people. My middle son's very, very best friend is the son of my husband's squire. So.
And all of your kids are squires to members, to peers outside of your direct family tree, which is something I've seen before. But
they are, and
they're all doing extremely well on their own merits now. Also,
yeah, we have an order, fighting order. Actually, it is our martial order. It is Feardman, and you can be a Feardman for archery, a Feardman for fighting, a Feardman for equestrian. It goes across and steel as well. And they are Feardmen, all three of them, for rattan fighting. And the oldest one is the GOA level fighting award, Huskarl. So
I'm not a Huskarl. I want to be a Huskarl.
Well, stick around. Yeah, he's a Huskarl. Very proud. He became a Huskarl right before he left Kingdom. He went to Detroit to be with his now fiance while she finished a PhD. So wow. he got his axes, as we say, and then left, which is fine. I mean, I miss him, but it's good that he spread his wings.
right. Let me see here. When you came into the SCA, there's always that moment when you first come in, you first start playing, that you see someone and you're like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And then and become like a mentor to you to kind of help you guide and figure out exactly what your version of the SCA should be. Who was your mentor or the superhero that you looked up to when you first started playing?
So the one that I knew very well that was in my local group and continues to be a guiding light in my life is Mistress Gwyneth, the SPCA. She got me into medieval cooking and she showed me how to be nice because I was young and not always nice. And she's an epitome of grace and comportment and pure like qualities like nobody. She's not the bar, she's like the top. But somebody else that I looked upon, I didn't know as well at first. I never really got the opportunity to get to know very well. And she may sound familiar to some of you, is Elizabeth de Rossignol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she started in Callantyre and she was a territorial princess, and then she was our queen. And I wanted to be her when I grew up.
We all do.
And I kind of still do. Yeah.
Yeah, we all do. And we just call her Countess E.
Yes.
I know she has a full name, but she's just Countess E. And seriously, when anybody's like, do you know if Countess E is going to be here? Like, that's her full name.
Yeah.
So
I think when she was in Callantyre, we referred to her as Lizzie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, now she's farming. So, she's.
Yes. I do follow her on Facebook, and I enjoy her exploits. And every now and then she'll post a video with sound, and then I'll hear her voice, and it just takes me back to her being queen and me just being kind of awestruck by her elegance and her humor, though.
Yeah.
Like, how does she pull that off? She is funny and she's delightful and she's smart, and yet she's still classy and elegant. And if she hears this, she'll probably laugh, but it's true.
She will, but in my first train, we were having a meeting of our then what we referred to as the Ladies of the Rose, and of course now we refer to them as the consorts. Or and the subject of intrusive heralds, court heralds, came up, and we were, she's someone who serves quite a lot herself as a court herald. Yes. And she was talking about, how the last thing you want is some big ass herald, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at her wide eyed and very deadpan, said, they have ass heralds. And she is someone uniquely qualified to respond to a joke like that.
Yes.
Like her sense of humor is so deadpan and so dry. It was the most beautiful thing. And I still remember it to this day. And it was 15 years ago at this point. Yes. So, and no, they don't have ass heralds. I would like to just mention that is not a thing.
Well, that's something that you'll need to fix on your next train.
Maybe, we can dream.
So there are all sorts of different, the different kinds of heralds, and we have color bird heralds in Callantyre. We start with the gold falcon herald as our kingdom herald, and then they have all the blue hawk herald, and I don't know, just pink ass herald, or I don't know.
Everything here is a part of a lion, a black lion of some kind, or something about. So I'm sure we can come up with the lion's ass.
The lion's ass.
Use that somehow, but it would need to be fancy talk, like Latin.
Yeah. The golden Callan ass herald.
Something. I'm sure before this has even been published, I'm going to get a message from somebody who knows the correct way to refer to this. So we should probably be careful before we get inaugurated or nominated for something like this. So
I just still don't have my magic wand, so I'm probably not using that power for good anyway, but that won't stop me. I'll do the other thing first, and then I'll do the ass herald.
Okay.
I am going to get some really fun messenger messages very soon.
You know what?
I
Your
love
face
my
is not
head.
showing. Your face is not showing. There's plausible deniability. I think we could say that it was just a voice actor.
It was my sister. She sounds just like me.
There you go.
Oh, and she would say it too. But yeah, heralds are wonderful people and they work really hard. And
I do.
yes,
Oh no.
I love you. I'm holding up heart hands, even though you can't see me.
Um,
Leads beautifully to our next question, Joel.
right? I was actually just about to say that. So what is a, we all have moments where we make a mistake in the SCA,
Geez.
where we say something and as soon as we done saying it, we realize we have our foot in our mouth now, or whatever that case was. What is a mistake that you've made at some point where it turned into a good teaching experience for you and for others around you?
I can't even
Other
think
than
of
the
a
ass
single
girl.
one. Gee, oh gosh. I mean, when I was a young person, in the SEA in my 20s, I didn't have a lot of tact. I will often tell people that I learned tact the hard way. Like I would say stupid shit and people would get really mad and they had a right to, and then I would feel stupid and bad and maybe defensive and all those things. And then, but if I wanted to have friends, I had to learn from that. And I feel like I mostly did. Every now and then my mouth opens up and things just come rolling out. One thing that happened to me was we were at Gulf Wars. It was our first rain, and it was I don't know, it was opening ceremonies or one of those times where everybody's looking at you and listening and you're saying stupid stuff. And I think we were not stupid stuff. I said stupid stuff, and we were promoting lilies. That we had our chance to speak, and we were promoting lilies, and I'd gone on about how now Gulf Wars, it was when it changed. And they would then alternate who the principals were every war and everything. And I don't fully understand it, but because it doesn't really apply to me as a non-fighter. But and they kept saying the word principals, and they kept saying principals. And then when it was my turn to talk, we were going to talk about lilies, and lilies doesn't have cohesive sides. Every year we just come up with a scenario, and you just fight wherever you want. People will recruit, units and things like that. We do not have standard opponents. And so I asked everyone to come to Lily's The War Without Principles. And everybody laughed. And the thing I learned from that is sometimes when you say something really dumb, people think you did it on purpose. And that's okay. But that didn't hurt anybody. I would hate to repeat something that I said that might have hurt a feeling or a lot of feelings. So that's the biggest stupid gaffe I made. And nobody even came up and said, ha, that was dumb. Nobody. I think everybody thought I was joking. And I was so embarrassed. But I think it maybe somebody's listening going, no, I knew that was a screw up, but everybody was nice about it at the very least.
That's great. And I was thinking about when you said you were talking about not having tact when you were younger and becoming defensive, and I think we know in our salad years here that the what happens with time is that we learn how to accept other people's anger as a gift that at least they told us, or at least we know, and we have the opportunity to be better. And when we know better, we do better. We
know better, we do better, and we can make amends.
That's right. If they're open to it. Obviously, when someone has been harmed, they don't have any obligation to accept amends, but when they do, that's a gift, right?
That is correct. If people give me the opportunity to make amends, I will do so.
Yeah, that's
and it is a gift. If people give you the opportunity to make amends, that is a great gift. Forgiveness is a great gift as well.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So, well, what keeps you in the SCA, and what inspires you?
So I think I've got the same answer that everybody does. Friendships keep me in the SCA. But and that's easy because it's true. I think if you stripped away all of the other stuff, I'd still want to hang out with all these people that I've met, and I'd still want to meet the people that I haven't met yet. But what keeps the SCA exciting and fun is kind of twofold. One is the art, the hobbies. It's a hobby full of hobbies. And so I can keep doing the ones that I love that I've been doing forever, like making clothes and cooking food. And I can pick up new ones like felting hats from scratch and, you know, other things that I love. I can just reinvent myself as much as I want to. And nobody's going to tell me, well, you can't do that. Nobody tells you can't do stuff that's harmless. But I really also just love new people in the SCA. And and obviously I don't have the energy or the time to like be around all the new people, but every now and then you just find a new person that their spark meshes with yours and they help you rekindle yours. Like like there's a million different kinds of fire, but when you find somebody who's got the same kind of fire as you, they can rekindle your spark. And it's like a blood transfusion sometimes. And so, yeah, I like to make new friends. Once a long time ago, somebody, I think meant it as an insult, but told somebody else that I collect new people. And I know she kind of meant it as a, you know, she's just collecting you because you're a new person. And I was like, yeah, but I kind of do. And some of them aren't new anymore. And a lot of those people are still my friends or, you know, people I want to spend time with and do things with. So, I mean, I hope I keep collecting new people until I die.
Well, and I think that's great. You know, a really good friend of mine, Sir Gabriel from Artemisia, he calls them his orphans, where he finds all the new people that show up at events, and he's just like, "Hey, you're hanging out with me now," and he takes them out and just shows them another part of the SCA.
Yeah.
And I very much agree with that. Where if you find those new people and their crazy matches you're crazy, and you just, you know, it really can reinvigorate you, and it can find it because you know, I had been slowing down on my desire to want to keep trying to better myself as a fighter, but we had some new blood show up at the Shire I used to live in, and all of a sudden, just with training with them, it reignited that spark and brought it back. So yeah, I think that's great, and I totally agree with that, and with bringing the new lifeblood into the SCA. You know, Artemisia had a great tradition of trying to basically embarrass everybody, where at their very first event, they would call up every new person that was their first event, and they would give their majesties would give them a token and say, you know, and make sure they knew how special they are for being there, and that they're going to be, you know, us salty, jaded people in 10 or 15 years, but they're going to be what keeps this beautiful, dorky dream we have going forward.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of newcomers, the great thing about them is that they don't know all of your stories. And to that point, Duke Sean has asked us in the comments to have you relay the hot dog story.
The what?
Hot dog story.
I don't know what the hot dog story is.
Oh my gosh. So now we have to go back to Sean and say, what on earth are you talking about? Tell us the hot dog story.
What's the hot dog story? Maybe give me a hint.
I certainly do not have a hot dog story. Joel, do you have a hot dog story?
Hirsch, what's my hot dog story? You don't know? It's Duke Sean.
So Sean's making fun of me, I think. Because,
oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
be more specific.
I was like, it's not like Sean to yank my chain.
No, Sean was
He might yank yours.
Yeah.
He might yank yours. He's never been anything but very sweet to me. So.
Oh, he's a fantastic guy, but yeah, he gives me it gives me a very hard time. And,
Okay.
and
Okay. Now I don't
so,
know
yeah,
a hot
that
dog
is,
story.
yeah, that was the short version is that I burned a whole bunch of hot dogs that I was briefly placed in charge of, like the night before I went on vigil, and I still don't. There's still no end of grief that I get about that from Viscount Anton, Sir Adrian, Sir Demetrius, and yeah, it was
Yeah. Story.
class
You'll
of
never get
2018.
rid of that story. Ever. Those are the stories that people will keep saying to you. Like
You
someone
know,
will remind you of that on your deathbed. I promise you.
out of all of the stories that are out there, if that's the one that keeps getting repeated, I think I'm
Exactly.
doing okay. So,
Exactly.
the other ones can stay in the past. We're good.
Yeah. And I made a new one because the War Without Principles, I had never brought that up again. And now people are going to talk about it. And I think it's far enough in the past that it doesn't embarrass me anymore. So it's the right moment for that story to come to light.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna email the autocrats of Lilies.
spelling matters. That's what I think
It
we're saying.
really does. But
Yeah.
yeah. The autocrats of Lilies are the oafs, and I'm sure they're okay with it.
Well, we're just about ready to close up here.
Okay.
Joel, you have one last question, and then if there's any last parting words you have for us, we'd love to hear them, Magdalena.
Okay.
What is the virtual world has been it's been a boon for keeping the SCA going and for keeping people in touch with each other and allowing us to continue to do things like this where we can get stories and experiences and perspectives out, but it's no substitute for an in-person event. What's something that you miss the most about the SCA pre-plague?
I miss wars where in the evening when the sun has gone down and fires are lit, torches are lit, and we are sitting under the Callanteer's Royal Pavilion is often called the Kingdom Living Room because everyone is welcome under it at all times. And we all sit under that pavilion and we either talk or we sing. Hirsch and I have more than once fallen asleep. We have a bench that we set up under there. And so it's our love seat. And by the way, we are the grossest, most cute couple in the kingdom. And I don't think anyone will argue with that. And we would sit there and lean our heads on each other. And I'm miming this and nobody can see me. And lean our heads on each other and fall asleep. I remember one time at Gulf Wars, I guess visiting royalty came in and we woke up because everyone was standing and we were like sleeping, drooling on one another. But I miss those evenings. I miss the firelight. I miss the singing. I miss that. Those are those moments that are just, they're magical and I miss it. But I miss a lot of people too. I just miss my people.
I think everyone listening is probably feeling that pretty.
Oh yeah, so that's the easy answer, and so I wanted to give a more specific one. So yeah, but I do really just miss people.
And I want to confirm on a happier note when you were just talking about YouTube being just gross and cuddly, and for those listening, go and listen to Duke Hirsch's interview with Sir Rifkin, and you will hear someone who has such a unapologetic crush on his spouse.
It's mutual.
100%. It is the most obvious ever. He has such a crush on you.
He is dreamy.
It's just this beautiful thing. He's pretty hunky.
He's dreamy. Oh, he's the best. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And we are so appreciative of your time. Maybe if you can turn your video back on, if you can.
Just sure, I think so. If I don't drop off.
One last look at you anyway. In the spirit of the great gift basket exchange that occurs so often in grand courts and not so grand courts, where we all end up with different baskets than we brought to the event going home with us. Yes. We're giving you a virtual gift basket because of course we cannot hand you a real one, but I need to just a few things that if we were raining, my head of retinue would have already checked with your people to see. Are you a milk or dark chocolate?
So dark, like
Dark.
black hole dark, like 85% or darker.
Like you wouldn't want your dog anywhere near it. Dark chocolate. Got it. Red or white wine?
Dry red wine.
Dry red. Okay. Puppies or kittens?
Puppies.
Okay, puppies. All right. So we've prepared for you a custom gift basket that of course has like the darkest chocolate we can get, where it basically, when you put it in your mouth, like all like light and hope leaves
Absolutely.
your mouth. It's just nothing but like bitter desolation.
Yep, that's me. Bitter desolation. That's my nickname.
Bitter desolation. The driest red wine we can get, that like it's almost powder when you pour it out of the
drier
bottle.
than the chocolate. Yes.
Drier than the chocolate. Great. We'll give you a modestly sized litter of puppies because you've raised all those children. So maybe like, let's say 4.
4 would be great.
I think 4 border collies is plenty, don't you? You seem up to the task.
Okay.
I was going to say miniature schnauzers, but
I would rather have a miniature schnauzer.
Okay, but okay, 4 of them though.
Okay.
We
Terrier mutts. Yeah.
a golden burnt hot dog for you to display on your mantle. That's from
Absolutely.
Joel.
Absolutely.
And I would also like to make sure you get an enormous, like the biggest garbage sack we could get of your favorite type of fleece.
Okay.
That's been washed, it's been combed, it's the perfect length for what you like to do. It's ready to go, and all you have to do is like spread it out and roll around in it before you go. So that is what we would give you.
Thank you.
Shoved in one basket if we could. So we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been super fun. I'm sorry we weren't able to see your face the whole time, but now everybody can see.
It didn't change. It was this at the beginning. It's this now. I may have aged a little.
Well, we're going to be signing off from Seattle with the smoke cleared, the skies are blue. Well, it's 6:30, so they're gray right now, but the skies were blue today. We actually got to see the sun.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yep. So we're doing well here, and it's wonderful that we've had the ability to connect with you, because I think pre-pandemic this sort of interview might not have happened, and I think it's one of the very best things to come out of this.
It is. I agree. I love this stuff.
It's wonderful meeting you.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too. Thank you.
thank you so much, you Grace. And for everybody, I'm having a little bit of tech issues right now, but we will have the upcoming schedule come out as soon as possible, but we still need interviews. So if you know someone, if you are thinking someone would like to join us, or if you are a member of the Order of the Rose, feel free to shoot me a PM here on Facebook, Joel Danson, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the schedule. As soon as I have my scheduling issues resolved, we will have that up for next week and moving on. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you again, your Graces.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was
A
lot of fun.
That is it for tonight. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody come back when we're back, when we can.
Okay,
Please.
definitely.
Please come back to the SCA. We need you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Offline.